Hey everyone, Felipe Castelo Branco here again. So, in today's video, I'm bringing you another testimony, another account so you can understand that our interactions with our partners from the 49 races are physical, verbal, face-to-face, as I've already mentioned. I've already brought you other accounts from other people here. There are dozens, hundreds of people who have already met with the partners face-to-face, talking physically, verbally, recording, filming, which is our modus operandi. And why do we do this? So that there's no interference, no manipulation of the information's content, because it's really explosive stuff, not always, but often very striking. And besides that, they're sharing research with us, instructing us, guiding us toward expeditions, toward technologies. So it has to be something extremely transparent, open to everyone. And that was the commitment. Actually, I wouldn't even call it a commitment. It was the agreement that our president, Fernando de Oliveira, made when he struck his first deal with the partners. When the partners asked him to train a certain number of people, a minimum of 1,440 people, to be able to operate at this frequency of physical, verbal, face-to-face conversation, precisely to avoid this risk. Because, as we see out there, with channelers and people who do psychography, how can you really know? Of course, it can happen, but it's so easy to manipulate that kind of thing when it's just one person. But if you have dozens, hundreds of people, and recorders, cameras, filming everything, it's a whole different story. So today, I'm bringing in someone who practically grew up inside what was then the Portal Project. He's been there for 21 years. Because he was born 21 years ago, he's 21 now. And it's interesting because I was there for his very first experience at the Portal Project. I did it too. It was an interaction with our partners where there was a little rain of the famous Escoid stones. He was 2 months old, and his baby carrier with his parents, who are also members, Danilo and Elira. And it's really cool because he grew up there, went through countless trainings, and he participated. He's a bit older than my son. My son is 15, but my son was also born there, had countless experiences, countless interactions. Now, Bernardo has two very interesting interactions that I made a point to record to keep on file so you can see what it's like. And today, he's going to explain to you his interactions with the famous TB Lou, who's back in the media again. So, taking the opportunity to bring in stories from people who've been around a long time, from back in the Portal Project days, now known as Dakila, so they can share their experiences. And Bernardo is cool because he had the experience of touching D.Lou, which was really awesome, face to face like I did. And you'll see, later I'll talk about it when he tells his story, we had the same experience of seeing D.Lou's face, which was really interesting. So, here's Bernardo. Come on in. The floor is yours. Tell all your stories. They're really fascinating.
I'm Bernardo, as Filipeo just introduced me. I'm 21 years old, and I've actually got about 22 years with Dakila since I was in my mother's belly. I've been part of the group. In fact, that's a story for another video, right? Because our first experiences in phenomena, man, really surreal stuff, started when I was still in my mom's belly. It's amazing, and that connected us even more with Dakila. My parents were already involved before, like he said, and I was born into Dakila. So, everything I'm going to tell you today isn't some made-up story. Man, it's real whether you want to believe it or not. That's the reality. It's physical, like he said. It's not channeled. It's not a meditation. None of that. These are physical things, recorded, filmed, things you can't deny, they're facts.
So, yeah, there were countless, right? Countless interactions ever since he was little, like I mentioned to you all, at just 2 months old, his first experience together with his parents, of course, and the baby carrier even then. But I picked out two stories that were really striking, right? From two conversations he had, two situations, right? Together with ETB Lou 1. The first, he was 13 years old. It was during a group activity with a lot of people, maybe, 200 people?
Maybe even 300 or so.
That's a lot of people. And the second time, he was 14, but that was in a separate group, which was the kids' group, right?
So, I'll
Ask you, go ahead and tell us, Bernardo, how was your first? Well, not the first, the one I picked, folks, because there were other things with him. This story of yours, during a group activity when you were 13 years old, come on, tell us about it.
Like he said, this first contact, this first interaction with the baby, was actually postponed because there was a previous activity, which was with a group of young people, where the kids group was also involved. In that activity, Bilo gave a little piece of scoria, a small crystal stone, to each of the children in the group. I wasn't at that activity, but all the children were sitting in a circle, and he appeared in the middle of the group and handed a little stone to each one. And I couldn't be there because I was traveling, and I really wanted to get that little stone. So, I got a shoebox and filled it with a bunch of toys I liked, a bunch of comics, little books, DVDs. I picked out a lot of things I really loved, and I wanted to give them to Bilo as a gift in exchange for my little stone. And I carried that box with me to every activity. And at a certain activity, I didn't tell anyone about this, because nobody knew what that box was. I was sitting just like everyone else. The activity was for us to perceive parallel realities. We had to pay attention to the sky, the forest, the manifestations of the beings. And in the middle of the activity, Bilo suddenly shows up out of nowhere. And whenever he appears, he makes that sound vibration. He introduces himself already saying his name. He appeared, and the second thing he said was, I want the kid with the box, Bernardo.
He said your name? He called you Bernardo.
And that's another thing that's just wild. I don't even know how to explain it to you guys. Man, the guy comes from, I don't even know where. He knows your name, knows you have a box. Out of nowhere. Man, the feeling is indescribable. You've been through that too, right? For real, several times. Man, when he says your name, you just freeze up. It's a feeling of peace. It's a feeling of. Man, I really can't describe that feeling. It's truly indescribable. But he called me and, man, the moment he called me, opened up. It was like that guy with the staff at the sea. I forgot his name now. Moses. Moses, that's him. And the path opened up, and I walked alone with the box. I was just a kid, about 12 or 13 years old. And I kept walking until I got to where he was. The job was on the way to the rigs. If you ever go to Dax, you can look for that place there. And there's a part that's kind of like a little hill, and he was on top of the mound. So I kept walking, and I got there and ended up alone in front of him. Man, it was like the distance from my phone to me right here. Clear as day, crystal clear. But I just can't remember his face from that moment. This is a story that's happened to a lot of people from Dhaka.
Including me, that's happened to me too. I've had countless interactions with him right in front of me, and I don't remember. Sometimes I remember, but other times I don't. Let's go.
There's an explanation for this. I'll explain it to you later. So I got there and just stood in front of him. He started talking to me, but I don't remember any of it. I was shaking. I was totally freaked out. Like I said, I've been with Dhaka for almost 22 years. My mom's outpouring. I was born in Dhaka, but I've always been really startled by the interactions. Because, man, we're just not used to that. Even for people who are there, it's not the norm. It's not the standard for our tennis life. So, it's a little different, but it's also kind of small. You can understand it.
Exactly. Let me just make a quick side note here, folks, to explain this to you. But it's like, if he had that interaction, that's fine. He was 12, 13 years old, younger, but that's the thing. When you come face to face with these beings who come from higher dimensions, their vibrational frequency is totally different from any other frequency in our three-dimensional plane. So, on a subconscious level, we don't recognize that frequency. So, whenever they're around, whenever they're present, when they show up physically, it gives you that feeling. Even me, with 25 years of experience under my belt, already an old hand at this, I still get a bit of butterflies in my stomach, just a little, until you tune in, get in sync. Of course, these days it only takes a second or two for me, but back then, a few years ago, it would take a few minutes and I get those butterflies in my stomach. All of that is normal because of the vibrational discrepancy. Until you get, let's say, in sync, obviously, with our training, that tuning in happens much faster. It happens in a much quicker way, and we can sustain those conversations for much longer. But again, guys, this was a few years ago, and Bernardo was 12 or 13 years old. So, just so you understand, this is normal.
Like he just said, until things stabilize, we get really scared. That's actually a good thing, because it speeds up our brain activity and really helps with communication and perceiving these realities. If you look up the video of Felipe talking, you'll see that he's talked about this several times already. But I just couldn't calm down. I was really scared. I was alone in front of him, at this distance. Everyone else was farther away, and I was really afraid. And I asked him, Bulu, help me out here. Give me a hand because I'm really scared. I can't stop shaking. And he said, okay, then wait 3 seconds. And after 3 seconds, I actually counted. After 3 seconds, the light just burst out of nowhere. Man, I was right in front of him, and that experience, man, it was like, it's a reality check. It expands your consciousness to a stratospheric level. It's huge, man. I was in front of him. The light burst out of nowhere. It wasn't near him. It wasn't near anything. It was to stabilize my frequency, to stabilize my energy, because I was really scared. And he said, wait 3 seconds. After 3 seconds, a light burst out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. And, man, this light just burst out of nowhere. With no explanation at all. It wasn't near him. It wasn't anything. It was at my light, man. That shattered all my disbeliefs. And from that light, my frequency started to stabilize again. I stopped shaking. I was shaking a lot because of his frequency, which wasn't compatible with mine. I was shaking a lot and then, out of nowhere, it stopped. It stabilized. And after that, he said, what's that box there, Bernardo? I said, come on, you already know what it is. He said, yeah, I do know, but I want to do an activation on you first. Hold out your hand. So I held out my hand. Man, I was about this far from him. I don't know, maybe about 5 hand spans away from him. I held out my hand and he slapped it, like this. The moment he slapped it, I tried to hold on, but I couldn't. And he pulled back and said, there you go, it's activated now, Bernardo. Then he said, you can give me the box if you want. So I handed him the box. He took it and crouched down, put it on the ground. By the way, he was floating.
Were you able to see what he was wearing? How he was dressed?
I saw everything, man. I saw his whole body. I saw it all, but I don't remember any of it.
But you remember that he was floating?
Well, he was wearing little boots, those hiking boots. He had those on and he was wearing that winter's sash. Those are the details I remember. He was wearing black clothes, okay? It wasn't white, it was black. I remember that. But, man, from what I remember, I don't recall the details of his outfit. I don't remember the details of his face. But he was wearing clothes that were really tight to his body. It wasn't normal clothing. It was like everything was made out of leggings. Anyway, lowering his hand, I handed the box to him. He took the box, put it on the ground, and the box started moving on its own through the bushes, all by itself, all by itself.
What do you mean? Did the box float along the ground or something?
I don't know if it was floating. It just started moving on its own, like the ground was there. He put the box down, and it just started moving, disappeared, vanished out of nowhere. And I wasn't alone. I forgot to mention, I have people who can vouch for this situation.
You were in the middle of a group of dozens of people. Everyone was watching. Everyone saw Bilu. Everyone saw you in front of him, and all of this happening.
But since I was scared, I forgot to mention this here. Since I was scared, I asked Bilu, can I call someone to help me, to hold on to me? I was afraid he might pull me into the woods. And he said, of course, Bernardo, you can call Joao Pastor. Joao Pastor is another veteran, another dinosaur from Dakila, a really well-liked guy, a great person, a good guy, just like everyone from Dakila. He called Joao Pastor. I don't know why he called him specifically, but he did, and Joao Pastor stood behind me, holding on to me, making sure he wouldn't let him pull me away. And he saw it, so much so that when Bilu was coming up, he said, are you seeing this? And I said, yeah, I see it. Man, it's crazy. And that was my first interaction with him. I don't remember how that story ended, but it was surreal, man. It really was surreal. I think it was so surreal that I don't remember the details, but I know what happened.
Just to add a detail here about Joao Pastor, he's already an older gentleman, a real veteran at the Dakila Portal Project, and he's still there to this day. He's a very beloved and respected person, and he actually went there because when he was about 12 or 13 years old, he was scared. He definitely called Joao Pastor, who must have been on a similar wavelength as him, older, with more experience, to give him, let's say, a bit of strength in that moment. Now you're going to tell us about this second encounter, this second, more memorable contact, when you were 14 years old and it happened in the children's group. The children's group was a group of little kids who went with their parents up to about 15 or 16 years old, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, my son is also part of that group. He's a little one too. Go ahead, Bia, tell us about it.
Man, that encounter was surreal. But taking the sir out of surreal, it was totally real. It's like this, you can believe it or not. I just want you, whether you believe it or not, to have this experience for yourselves. Go there, get to know it, have the experience, because once you go, there's no turning back.
That's true. That's true. There's no turning back.
You might even try to leave, but you just can't. Man, so here's the thing, this work, like Felipe Paulo said, was a project with the kids group. We went to the kids activity accompanied by 3 adults. We went without the parents for this activity. There were about 15 of us, 10 to 15, a bunch of my friends, all veterans too, tough guys from there, from the Portal Project. We arrived at the activity accompanied by AISA, who was kind of like the kids group supervisor, Larissa, and Fernanda Lima, who was filming and recording everything that was happening. We arrived at I don't remember now exactly where on the farm this encounter happened, but it was a place. I'll try to describe it for you as best as I can where it was. We had to go through a really tough trail to get there. It was really hard to get through, full of bugs, full of little mosquitoes, every kind of creature you could think of, you'd find there. We went to do this trail. I really like these activities mainly because of the trails, which were an adventure I really enjoyed. We set out on the trail and got to a point. Man, a magical spot appeared. Out of nowhere, a kind of clearing opened up, and there was kind of a little hill, like a small slope going down. Down there, it kept going too. It was another clearing, like that. There were some trees around, but on top there was nothing. So everything was really bright, because the clearing was pretty much right above us and everything was showing up really clearly. We got to the site and we lined up, one next to the other, looking down from the little hill. We were doing the same work as in the previous story I told, about the contact, where we had to pay attention to the manifestations of the beings. Pay attention to the sky, pay attention to the forest, to smells, sound effects, every kind of interaction that could happen with the beings. We were sitting there talking, laughing, because the kids' work was really funny. We were all really hyped up. And actually, I think that made communication and interaction with the beings a lot easier. It made things way easier. We were there, having a really cool time talking, and the monitor was a little further back. Larissa was on the other side, and Nana was sitting right there with us. And in the middle of the conversation, in the middle of the game we were playing, I started to pay attention to the... Oh, by the way, I was right at the end here, okay? And the rest of the line continued over there. I was sitting there, and I started paying attention to the forest, which was the work we were doing. And I noticed there was a white t-shirt lying under the little hill, down at the bottom. And I was looking at the t-shirt and said, "Hey guys, this t-shirt doesn't belong to anyone here. Someone forgot it. Someone stole it. I don't know. Grab it." And I said, "No, it doesn't belong to anyone, man." And as soon as they said it didn't belong to anyone, the t-shirt started to move. And I said, "Man, what kind of animal is that, man?" And the t-shirt started moving. It began to take on a shape. At first it just looked like a t-shirt, then it kind of turned into a blob, like some slime or something, I don't know. It didn't really have a texture or a defined shape. And it started moving, started forming a shape, and ended up looking like a little old lady. A little old lady, a tiny little thing. And when she appeared, like I said, he always presents himself with a sound vibration. And he said, "Bilu, everyone's man. Bilu is here. What's going on? Did you see that?" Nothing. Everyone started getting really happy with his appearance. And he said, "Bilu came to do an activation on you all." He wanted to give us a high five. And he said that after the activation, he could answer a personal question from each person who was working there. He started a discussion. I've never seen so many angry people, right, buddy? Everyone arguing. "No, I'm going to be first. I'm going to be first. No, it's going to be me." Everyone arguing. And I said, "Guys, chill. Let him choose, man. Ask Bilu to choose who's going to be the first to give him a high five." He said, "Bernardo, always trying to keep the peace, you know?" And he said, "So why don't you go, then, Bernardo?" I said, No. He said, "You're the last one. I want to make sure everyone gets home safe." Everyone is going to get back home safe, healthy, everyone will get home just fine. I still didn't believe it, okay? Even after the experience I had there, high-fiving Bilu, him floating in front of me, the box moving by itself, I still didn't believe it, because all of that could have been staged. Up until then. So, man, are you going to say it?
No, no. Go ahead. Go for it.
And he called me to go first, but I refused because I was scared to death again. And he said, okay then, go the other way around. And, man, first of all, I don't know how he knew my name again. He knew my name, man. He just showed up out of nowhere and knew my name. And when he calls our name, man, like I already told you guys, it's an indescribable feeling. It's like you already know him, but at the same time, you feel like you don't, man. Yeah, because.
It's a reality, a different reality. Vibrational frequencies are completely different. We must cut him slack because he was young, 13 and now 14 years old. Facing something like this, even if you've been involved since you were little, is complicated, and that's exactly why. When we go back to our homes, back to our cities, there's a kind of vibrational distance. There's a fluctuation where you start to wonder, my God, did that really happen? But you can see how he's describing it, right? It looked like a shirt on the ground, just thrown there, and suddenly it started to take the shape of a person and came out. This was in the middle of the woods on a farm, up on a hill for sure, or if it wasn't on a hill, it was at some high point, maybe in a clearing. The ground was stone because most of the clearings there are rocky. That's where the rituals are done. I mean, just think how crazy that is. It would mess with anyone's head, especially at 14 years old. It's really tough, right? Well, keep it up, Bernardo.
And then it went the other way around, like I said. I had turned down being the first. So it ended up going the opposite direction. If I'm not mistaken, the first was my brother, Joao Pedro Costa Lunga. You can ask him, it's true. He'll be there to confirm it. He was the first one too. I didn't want to do it because I think it runs in the family. We're all a bit scared. And he didn't want to either. He said, no, 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 Bailu, I don't want to do it either. I don't know what he said, but it had to be someone else. That's what Bailu said. So my brother went, and I said, no, you go ahead, man. And he started getting closer. He got right up to the edge of the sauce. Well, not the sauce, right? But the little drop there, the little dirt bank. He got to the edge and said, Bailu, I'm not going to show you my hand. No way. And then, man, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention. When Bailu took the shape of a child, before asking us to slap his hand, he became huge. He got huge, and we said, Bailu, we can't really see you. You're too far away. I don't know. You're too tiny. He said, really? So Bailu is going to get big. Man, seriously, you don't even have to tell this person there's a clown here with $156. Dude, he got bigger than a tree, man. He was like 5 meters, 6 meters tall. I don't even know how many meters that was. He got huge. I've never seen anything like it, not even the size of a house.
That's interesting because that's actually happened before. In fact, I'm going to convince my wife, Vivian, to give her account because that's exactly what happened. With us, there were 12 people, right? We were sitting in a circle talking. Bila came out of the woods, stayed right there near us, talking and talking, then turned to Vivian. Vivian, do you want to see the big Bilu? Vivian thought it was some kind of joke. She said, all right, Bilu. Bila grew to over 2 meters, almost 3 meters tall. She went crazy that day. It was a full moon. Everything was super bright. We saw everything perfectly. He was just a meter away, right next to us. Out of the woods, he stepped into the clearing where we were with the probes too. It's a place on Dakila's farm, like a clearing with a big rock surrounded by forest. He came out and became huge guys. It's the way they can manipulate their own form because we are condensed energy. Actually, we are condensed light, and they can manipulate their density, grow bigger, grow a beard. even change their face. This is the technology of transfiguration, which dozens of us have already witnessed. Go ahead, B.
Same ability as Christ.
Exactly.
And actually, it's not just them who can do that. There are some people, I don't know if I can mention names here, but there are some people from Dakila who can also manipulate that frequency. But continuing with the contact, he got huge, and I said, Blue, that's starting to freak me out, man. But it was all good. Then Blue went back to the size of a normal person about our height, you know. And then the work began. My brother told me to put it in his hand, but I didn't want to reach out. And he stretched himself. He was down there at the bottom of the little slope, and he stretched himself out. He was standing on the ground, stretched out his arm, and made a sound like a cat, you know, to play with my brother, and grabbed his leg. It was a cat yowling, really. It sounded exactly like a cat yowling, too. It wasn't someone just pretending to make a cat noise. Anyway, then it started one by one. My brother would ask the question, and then he could leave. He stayed there with Larissa, who was already welcoming the people who were leaving work. And then it was the second person, the third person, the fourth person. It went one by one, and I thought, my God, I should have been the first man. But now it's just me and him left, man.
It's just you and him there, alone.
It went one by one. My turn. He said, Bernardo, now it's you. And I also find it interesting that he jokes about the accent thing, the way of speaking. Felipe, too, has witnessed this many times and jokes with him and also talks the same way. It was the same with me. With each person, he talks in a different way. There's some explanation for that, but he doesn't say. But I went there, slapped his hand. I didn't believe it like I was saying. I still wasn't believing it. The guy got huge, like it was a t-shirt. First it was your mom as a dwarf, then he got huge, then your mom was normal. I still wasn't believing it. That's what it was. I didn't get it. I didn't get that. I want to hear him say it's Yura.
Yeah, a lot of people out there saying, oh, Arandy, it's the best Arandy. So guys, there are so many. We laugh about it because there are so many interactions. So many interactions, even different ones, with different sizes, with different rocks. It's surreal, right? We think it's funny because it has absolutely nothing to do with it, right? Go ahead, B.
I went there, slapping his hand, and said, I want to see this reality. Slapping his hand, this time I grabbed it. I held his hand and he yelled, no. He pulled his hand away, put it on my chest to push me away. I said, no, Belladou, I'm so crazy right now. This is going to give you a consciousness shock. You can't remember these things yet. I said, what do you mean, B? He said, are you going to use your personal question for this? I said, no. Anyway, I didn't continue that conversation with him, but apparently when we spend too much time close to their frequency or physically interacting with them in this reality, we wake up to some things that maybe it's not time for yet. That ends up messing with some things. Felipe, for sure, has plenty of stories to illustrate this. Anyway, shaking his hand, I was the last in line. It was just me and Larissa a little behind me, and Ananda filming. As I was shaking his hand, he said, now Bilu is going. And I said, well, I'll wait here. I want to see you leave now. I stayed there to see everything. Man, he took a step back and vanished. It's not like the video you guys have seen of him disintegrating. He did that on purpose to catch it on camera. He doesn't usually disappear like that. Man, he doesn't have to explain himself, man. It's like a curtain just closed on him out of nowhere. He vanished just like that. He wasn't there anymore.
It closed. He disappeared instantly, right?
Out of nowhere, I said, now what is this? It's not Lographia, because I grabbed Lografia's hand and held it. Tell us.
About the texture? What did you feel when you touched his hand?
It was a cold night, even though it was summer, November, or December. Exactly, it was a cold night. It was really cold. Everyone was freezing. His hand was really warm and it had kind of these little bumps, like, I don't know how to explain it, but there were sort of little bumps and his hand was really soft. Okay? And details about his body, I saw all of him. Okay? He was wearing all white, completely white. And again, I couldn't see his face, but he was wearing a mask. It looked like a mask, but it wasn't a mask. I don't know how to explain it. It was a face that looked like it had a black hole inside, with little stars moving around from one side to the other. Actually, it looks a lot like Lost in Space if you look it up, or if you could put a picture here to show what I mean.
Yeah, I'll put up a picture so you can see because it's been many years. I knew about this contact, this conversation. I knew all about it years ago, but I didn't remember the details. So I decided to record this video because we were at the farm a few days ago. And while we were talking, he started telling me the details about it. We were just chatting about some of our old experiences, you know? He told me this a while ago. He described the face as a black hole with little stars spinning around, like the robot from the new Lost in Space on Netflix, not the 1960s version. I'll even put up a picture here for you. So, what happens? I also had a conversation with Bilu. It was together with the technology group that I'm part of, one of the groups I've been in for many years. This was around 2008, so about 14 years ago, more or less. On that occasion, I was sitting next to Bilu. Our group had 11 people, if I'm not mistaken. We were sitting on a little path, a small trail on the farm, in a place called Mill Harrell, which is part of the farm. Bila was right next to us on a little patch of grass. He was on the lawn talking. We spent 3.5 hours talking with him. And then what happened? He called me, Felipe, sit here by my side, and I sat next to him and talked. I was just a hand's width away, like with Bernardo. I saw his outfit, a tight-fitting lilac jumpsuit like a neon light. He showed me some gadgets, his reactor. He opened it in the air. It looked like an iPad, a translucent piece of glass that lit up. He showed it, saying, "This is our iPad," and pulled it, making a motion. I didn't see anything in his hand, just the small reactor he had, a device about this big,
Well,
really tiny.
and even if there was something in his hand at that time, even today, there's no technology that can do that.
There's nothing close to that. I kept looking at his face and I said, "Bilu, why can't I see your face or your eyes?" All I could see was this black hole, and he would move these little stars. I asked him, "Bilu, why can't I see your eyes? I'm just a hand's length away from you." Then he said, "You're not ready, because if I reveal my face, you'll have memories. It'll cause a huge shock to your consciousness. You're not ready." That's exactly what Bernardo saw and what Bilo also told him, that it would cause a shock to your consciousness. You're not ready. Sure, Bernardo was 14 years old, and I wasn't. I was already over 30. But even so, you can see it's something really intense. But the experience was exactly the same.
Exactly, it's surreal. Me telling you about it here, you can't really understand all the details, the emotion, what happens during an interaction. Felipe has also been through it. He's already shared several of his stories here. He's an incredible guy. You have to be there to really feel what it's like.
In other words, here's the thing: we're not trying to convince anyone. We're just, well, I'm here sharing accounts, not just from people who've had these experiences face to face. Bernardo, a young guy, 21 years old, had experiences, practically a kid. And it's not to show you that this thing is real, that it's out there, but it's not for us to think it's something, Even though it's out of this world, it shouldn't be. We've been conditioned to either believe it's something negative, that they're invaders, or that they're horrible monsters, or that they have some kind of negative agenda for us. We were conditioned to think that by the establishment, by the system, by Hollywood with its ridiculous movies, it's all conditioning, a kind of indoctrination. What I want to show is that within DACA, through our training, all of this is a fact. I wouldn't say it's routine, but we've already established a certain relationship. And that's exactly for what? To receive information, research directions, guidance for expeditions, the technologies that are being passed on. That's why we're also taking concrete action, creating companies, building a city, ziggurats, our observatory, all these partnerships we're forming around the world. And why? To put these technologies, this information out there to actually concretely change the status quo. Yes, these interactions, these conversations are really cool, but in themselves, they don't mean anything if we don't bring about change, if we don't use and take advantage of all this knowledge to really try to change the situation. That's the goal. A real concrete change that reaches everyone.
And we're already here. Huh? We're already here. So stay tuned, because it's already arrived.
Exactly. This is already happening. It's already happening. And that's exactly our intention, to show you that this alliance we have with the Nova Raka squad isn't meant to be seen as something mystical, like, the saviors, the angels of light, or whatever people are saying out there that they're helping out. Of course they are, but it's something pragmatic, folks. It's really about changing this little world of ours in a concrete way, breaking the matrix. Basically, that's it. So, Bernardo, your final words, so this doesn't get too long. Go ahead. Do you want to say anything else?
Can I do a little promo for something coming up? I just created a new channel where I'm going to start posting. I'll put up some question boxes there, and I'll start talking about some DACA stuff, sharing experiences. I'm going to record some videos too. I want to clear up questions for the younger crowd as well in a more relaxed way, not as serious as you do it. So hit me up on the new channel I just created, which is called Bernardo DACA.
No, that's it. Interesting. You're from another generation, so you have the language that really connects with the younger crowd, all those people, and we need that. We have to show, like, hey guys, DACA is real. We have this partnership with the 49 races, BT Bilu, whether people like it or not, it's real. There are hundreds of us with this level of interaction with them. It's a reality, but it should already be considered like you talking to someone, I don't know, from Japan, from another country, far away, from a distant place. There are older brothers with much more advanced technology, a much deeper understanding, a much higher level of consciousness, and they're here precisely to help their younger brothers break free, to break out of this matrix, this world that's been built, manufactured, controlled by this bunch, right? We call them Geo, the hidden government, this transversal power that's been manipulating us for a long time in the name of the famous Anunnaki. Guys, The real controllers have consolidated there. Let's say their system, right? Their prison system here, which we've been living in for 14,000 years since the last flood. The flood, right? As I've been saying, repeating here, and without the help of new things, it's practically impossible for us to break free. The system is perverse. This prison is an invisible prison, a mental prison as well, isn't it? Our whole system was set up, designed to put us inside a globe. Like one of our friends once answered me when I asked, "Come on, it was Italo, Italo," he said, "but if the earth is a globe, if the earth is flat, square, or a parallelepiped, what difference does it make?" Because the globe, he answered me, for him the globe is a mental prison. In other words, it's the matrix, the construction of the matrix. That is, we don't even know where we live. And our documentary about the convex earth helped us start breaking down these pillars of doctrines that were forced on us. Go ahead, Bernardo. Any final words to wrap up?
Man, I just asked you if I could do that promo. I wasn't even doing it yet.
No problem at all. Go ahead. It's fine. So, Bernardo, I wanted to thank you for your participation, for sharing your story. It's really interesting. It's a new generation of people, these kids who are basically born into it. There's a group of girls and boys who were practically born into the Portal Project, with their parents being active members, participating. These people, already have a totally different perspective. They'd had countless interactions, even if they're sometimes skeptical, like, is it real? Is it not? But these folks are going to make a difference. They're going to help change a lot of things. So, Bernardo, give us your final message, your closing words for this video.
Guys, for anyone who got interested in the topic, for anyone who felt awakened in some way by something I said here, I created a new Instagram. It's a small account, it's private for now, and it's called Bernardo. Dakwil. You can follow me on Instagram, where I'll be posting lots of question boxes so you can ask anything you want about Dakwil, about our experiences. I'll be sharing a lot of my own experiences there, and there will be a lot of people recording videos with me too. Anyway, if anyone's interested, you can follow me there. You can message me. We can chat. Ask me whatever you want. And that's it, folks. The nonsense is over. It's done.
That's it, folks. That's it. Like I always say, time is short. We have very little time to put all these things we've been working on into action, all these partnerships around the world. And here's the thing. One of the agreements we have with these beings is to pass on the information. So stay tuned to Bernardo's Instagram and let's keep moving forward. I'll bring you more videos later. Thanks a lot to everyone out there.